So I always try and have athletes say, what do you need to do to be part of that infinite goal? What do you need to prepare mentally, physically, educationally? What do you need to study to make sure that you're trying to get a complete effort every single game? When you make that the goal, man, does that change the environment and the mindset of a team. Wins and losses are going to happen, right? They're going to happen. And again, on another episode, we can discuss hating to lose versus loving to win. I mean, I think that's a great topic. You wrote a fantastic article about that. Everybody should check that out. But when it comes to a team, I think the goal should be larger than just win the game, win the season, become a dynasty, right? When you look at the great teams in sports, the Edmonton Oilers of the 80s, the Islanders of the 80s in hockey, the Bulls, the New England Patriots, you could say Kansas City Chiefs now. Look at any of them. They're not just trying to win a game. They're looking at something beyond that. We heard Tom Brady talk about it wasn't about just winning the Super Bowl. It was about excellence. Every single day, every single practice, every single time I touched the football, no matter where I was, it was about excellence in that. That's how you create an environment or a championship culture, right? And it takes time and it takes practice, and you've got to nurture it. Like you said, I always joke with coaches, I build glass houses. It'll be the most beautiful house you've ever seen, but someone comes up with a hammer and goes, tick, and the whole thing comes crashing down if you haven't prepared yourself for it. Sorry, I'm on a soapbox here. I'm excited about the conversation.
Me too, man. I love it. I love it. We can get into skills, but I want to tell a quick Tom Brady story.
Let's do that. People love Tom Brady stories.
They do. And so when I was with the Raptors, we had the distinct pleasure of relocating a franchise internationally during COVID. So we moved from Toronto to Tampa because the border was closed. And I happen to have a couple of friends who work for the Tampa Bay Bucks. And so, the season's kind of wrapped up. We're spending some time in Tampa getting ready for the draft. And, around this same time, the NFL is kind of kicking back up and doing OTAs and all those things. And so I shoot a friend a message and I end up going to Bucks practice. And it happens to be a day where the veteran guys are like getting the day off basically to rest. And I also went to college with Gronk, so spent some time like with him, as he was becoming more and more of the great pro that he
When's
became.
that book coming out?
That's a different story.
Right.
So, I show up, I see Gronk, say hi, like we're spending time, you watch the veteran guys are kind of like they're engaged, they're cheering on their teammates, right? But they're kind of like on the side, and you've seen practices like this. They're there, but they're not there. You know what I mean? And I'm looking around, I'm trying to figure out like where Tom Brady is. And all of a sudden I look over to the offensive practice field and Tom Brady is standing there playing fullback. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is Tom Brady in at fullback? And he's like running routes as a fullback. He's pretending to block as a fullback. He's calling stuff out from his position. And I'm watching this guy work and I'm like, holy cow. Like even on a day that could be an off day, he is out there trying to make his teammates better, messing around at a different position, coaching these guys up like he cares about it. And it's just the standard that he set was unbelievable to see it kind of play out in live time. Honestly, I've never seen another player like that at pro sports. And I've been around some pretty great all-time folks. That was just another level of commitment to the craft. And so to your point, that focus on excellence and greatness. And really, I mean, in my view, when I've looked at the best athletes in the world in the history of sports, when you hear them talk, they all talk about becoming the best version of themselves.
Right.
If you watch Starting Five on Netflix, LeBron talks about the moment where he sets the all-time NBA points record. And he says flat out, I never set out to set the all-time points record in the NBA. I just tried to become the best basketball player I could be. And that's what led to him being perennial champion, all-time great, up there in the discussions with MJ, Kobe, all those things. So I think it's a really great lesson too. Like if you can cultivate that attitude that this is about becoming the best version of yourself, competing with yourself, that's like the foundational mindset skill really to get the outcomes that you're looking for.
Yeah, look, success leaves clues, right? And we're dropping some of those gold nuggets right now. We'll let the people decide who the best NBA player of all time is. We're not going to. That's not what we're here for. I do want to talk about some stuff in youth sports with you real quick too. I do love the stories we're telling of pro sports back and forth. But a parent approached me recently with a concern that their child was getting too wrapped up in watching highlights and spending just time on screens in general. Who knows what they're watching on social media? And she asked, what could they do to curtail this, right? And I told her that while I'm all for reducing screen time for kids, the solution actually lies in building their self-esteem, the kids' self-esteem. And a lot of time that takes place off screens in the messages we give our kids as parents and coaches. So The question I have is, are we giving them the tools to create a growth mindset over a fixed mindset? Are we focused on solving problems, right? Finding solutions, or we focus more on the problem? And that's something I see in youth sports a lot. We focus on what's wrong versus how we can make it right.